Hey, 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 welcome to Healing and Building, formerly known as Tuesday with Tamika, where we combine our healing and our building. Because over here, we believe that you can only build to the level that you have healed. I want to remind you that we still have the same five pillars. We believe in lifting as we climb, turning our trials into treasures, living a life to inspire and not impress, opening up and allowing God to fully restore us, and loving as if we have never been hurt. I believe today's podcast is going to be a great one to really kick off this rebrand, to talk about the reason why Coach Tamika, decided to rebrand from Tuesday with Tamika onto this new name and this new really journey that I'm on after 10 years of business, where I've walked women through some deep inner healing, through really changing their mindset, with changing their hidden trauma, uncovering it and healing. What I started to notice is that they had a money issue. So we could walk through the inner child healing, we could walk through the past trauma. But what ended up happening is they weren't able to pay me what they wanted to pay because they still had a money issue, which is why I have transcended and I have not transformed. I guess I've always been this way, but I wanted to bridge or marry healing and building the life of your dreams. And that's through business. I think today's guest is going to be a phenomenal spokesperson to help us really walk through what it looks like to both heal and build, because I don't care what anybody tells you, you need both. You can't just be all super spiritual without any business tactics. That's not wise. You cannot have all these business tactics without having God and having your spiritual life intact. So I'm going to hush and I am going to bring on my guest because I believe he is going to bring that fire. Hey, Bryan, you have a minute?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. It's great to
Thank
be
you.
here.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell the TWT family a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. My background's in business from New York. I live in Florida now. And I've always been a spiritual person. I've always been a believer of God, of course. Um, but I went through a tragedy
Mm,
around 4 years ago. It's almost 4 years. I was married. I have a 5-year-old son, and 4 years ago, my wife passed away.
mm,
And it was a very crazy time because I was actually planning on moving to Florida at the time. I ended up coming here with my son, but not Devora. And so my son and I had to rebuild. And it's a process, right? There's grieving, there's business, there's moving. I mean, what do they say? The three hardest or most complicated challenges in life, right? And so I went really down a further spiritual path. I'm still not a monk. I'm still not a shaman, but I like to incorporate what I've learned in New York City and Brooklyn, doing my business and my real estate with the healing. I've met so many amazing people in the healing world, in the spiritual world, and just kind of combining the two, right? Because I think the average person isn't, this crazy guy at a boardroom or like this narcissist CEO. And I think most people aren't monks either, right? Most people aren't going to meditate for 6 hours a day. You know, when you look at everyone online, you have to wake up at 4 a.m., you have to read, you have to journal, you got to cold plunge and stretch and meditate and read. And it's like, it's just bananas. So, like, I want to do these things for just common people, normal people, because most people aren't David Goggins. Most people aren't living in these extremes, right? So like, what about all these people in the middle? And I love what you said about the money and breaking these bad psychologies and things. And I think that when you go online, it's like, do you want to be a billionaire? Do you want to own a yacht? What about everyone who just like wants to make double? What about everyone that just
yes.
wants to make 25% more? So it's like, I'm more like, let's just talk to regular people like myself that want to increase their life. They don't want to go backwards and they don't want to stay the same, but maybe they don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. in an ice bath.
You're talking to the right audience because listen, I see those videos and and I think we all have, if we're honest. I'm like, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe that's why my business hasn't grown to the level that I wanted it to go. Maybe. And then I think like That's crazy. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm here being a mother, being a wife, doing things that truly make me successful, and waking up at 5 a.m. I or 4 a.m. and slapping. I don't know if you saw the video with the guy with the banana. Like, oh, I'm not
No,
doing
that one
all
I
of that weird
missed.
stuff.
You'll send that to me later.
I will send that to you later, Bryan. Like, I'm not doing all of that. I literally want, like you said, I want to double my business. And I know that the listeners, this is exactly where they're at. They want to continue to heal because let's be honest, life is going to continue to happen. My condolences for you losing
Thank you.
your wife. And we have these tragedies, and there's a saying that says either we're coming out of a challenging storm, we're getting ready to go through one, or we're right in the middle of it. And so unfortunately, there will always be things that cause us to say, throw our hands up and say, I'm not doing this anymore, this is too hard, where we don't want to give, we feel like we can't do it. And so I want, just like you, to talk to that person, to talk to that person's like, you know what, despite the challenges, despite the hardships, I'm going to keep going. Sometimes I don't even know how, but I know why. Bryan,
Mhm.
what's your why? Why did you continue to go forward even after losing your bride?
Yeah, I would say the number one answer is my son, right? Because when all this was going on, he was only like 1.5, and he wanted to play. We had just moved to Florida. We were actually living, well, I was living with my parents for a little bit, and then we were living by the water, and so we still had to go in the pool, we still had to go on the beach, playgrounds, like it's like me, my family, and people close in my universe, we lost Devora.
Yeah.
But for him, it's not the same kind of loss, right? For
Mm,
him, it's more of like a matter of fact that she's not here. And
mhm.
so you can't have a baby in bed with you with, sad music on and crying all the time. And I think that for me, it was great because it gave me a reason, a why to keep moving, to keep doing stuff. And honestly, I remember I haven't even thought about this in a while, but like going to the beach, because we lived really close to the beach, going to the beach and just holding him all the time, I started actually getting in better shape just from
Wow.
walking on the sand and holding him. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start going to the gym because I'm starting to feel better and stuff. So I started going to the gym more, and it kind of just all happens. It doesn't mean that it's all rainbows and sunshine, but it is nice to have a reason to keep going, right? And I
Mm,
also feel it's a personality thing. I
mhm,
think that we really forget about nature versus nurture. And the
mm,
older that I'm getting, the more I believe it's like there's a lot of things that are pre-wired in us. Now, that doesn't mean that things that happen in the reality can either like turn things on or off, right? But I do think that there's a lot of natural things going on. I think we like to think that we can control a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of things that we're just born with, and it doesn't mean that you can use that as an excuse. It doesn't mean you have to go with that. But when you go through these trials and tribulations, sometimes you have to have a little grace and just say, okay, I'm not this person. Like I don't like to compare, but obviously you have to look at people and see what they're doing. So if you're
yeah.
seeing like David Goggins is getting up at 4 a.m. and doing all these things, like, okay, do I really want to be this person? Am I this person? Can I be this person? Or am I just like shooting myself in the foot? Am I just setting
Mhm,
myself up for failure by trying to emulate someone that I'm not? And
mhm,
or maybe we have to do baby steps. Maybe I can't wake up tomorrow as David Goggins, and I'm just using him because everyone knows him as like the guy does a million things. But it's like, hey, listen, when's the last time you went to the gym? 3 years ago. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of we can't just jump into David Goggins' world. We can't be a Navy SEAL tomorrow. Like we're going to have to go through this as a process. And I think the baby steps is what's important. And like you were saying with storms and challenges, a lot of times the only way out is through. And
yes.
so like if you start fumbling and trying to turn around and uh, doing different things, you're just going to be in the storm that much longer.
100%. There is a principle that I teach the ladies in my community, and that is God honors movement, right? So when we are like you know, all it feels like we have is our baby and the beach. And we are literally holding that baby, and that baby, that could be your business. That baby can be that book that you publish and you feel like no one's buying it. That baby can be the podcast that you, the real estate venture that you, whatever that thing, or it could be your actual literal babies, right? And that's all you have. But when you pick that thing up and you say, you know what? I'm going to take one step, you know, piggybacking off of what you said, baby steps. Babies don't get up and start running. They take one step at a time before they're able to really move. And so
Totally.
picking that thing up and moving, before you know it, your business will be in better shape. Before you know it, your mindset will be in better shape because you're like, yes, I'm not going to get up and pray and meditate and take cold plunges and do all of that stuff, but I am going to wake up maybe 15 minutes earlier and I'm going to just sit and I'm going to breathe and I'm going to journal and I'm going to read one page a day. I'm going to do these things. Before you know it, those baby steps add up. And then you look up and 4 years later, 3 years later, you're a different person because you
Absolutely.
took those steps. What are some practical steps besides, you know, getting up with your baby boy and going to the gym and walking on the beach? What are some other things that you had to do, Bryan, to really get yourself out of that cycle of grief?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a big question, you know. I like what you were saying. You know, when you do watch a baby starting to walk, he falls a lot and he grabs onto things. And I like that metaphor. And I used to use that a lot. And recently, I don't know, in the last couple of years, I changed it. Not that that's a bad metaphor, but I just changed it for me and clients of mine to either surfers or skateboarders. And I am
Uh-huh.
not a surfer and I'm not a skateboarder, but I have gone surfing in Hawaii and it was an amazing experience. But um, what I like about the surfing and skateboarding is these people, they know they're going to fall.
Mm.
There's no skateboarder, including Tony Hawk, that's going to go out there on the slide or whatever the hell we call it and thinking that I'm not going to fall today. He
Mm-hmm.
knows for a fact he's going to fall. Every single surfer, they know they're going to fall into a wave. And
That's
that's how
so
we have to
good.
look at life, where because the baby probably doesn't really know it's going to fall. So that's the
Exactly.
nuance there. And
Yeah.
so I really like the idea of surfing because I'm in Florida or skateboarding, depending on what you're into, because we are going to fall. It's 100%. And like, if you ever, you know, there's this term overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
Every overnight success is probably 20 years that you haven't seen like an iceberg, right? So there is no overnight success. And yeah, every once in a while you're going to meet people like Job from the Bible that have just gone through the crap, and you're going to meet people that everything they do turns to gold like the Midas touch. But for the
Mm-hmm.
most part we're living here. For the
Yes.
most part we're living here, and when there's ups we're going to be excited, when there's downs we're going to be excited. And now to bring this full circle, I mean, one of the main things for me is gratitude. And this is really an answer to your question because when you win the lottery, I'm just making it very obvious. If you win the lottery, the first thing you're going to do is thank God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, when shit hits the fan, people don't necessarily like to thank God right away. You know, the prayer, people do pray obviously when they're going through problems, but there's a difference between praying and being thankful. There's a
Mm.
difference between wishing and manifesting. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that people a lot of times they are praying if they're believers, but I also think that they might not be so grateful. And so we
Mm.
have to really learn, and that's really what I did to answer your question, like practical steps is being grateful for the situation that I'm in right now. It happened this way. It couldn't have happened any other way. And the reason that I know that's true is because I'm here and this is what's happening. And
100%.
so, you know, like the what ifs, the let's go back in time, let's create a time machine, let's go in the DeLorean, all these things, they don't really exist, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And when you occupy all your bandwidth and brain power into what should have been, or, you know, imagining the future, imagining the past. Okay, but we're in the present now. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, really, the most important person in everyone's life is their future self.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have kids, it could be your future self and your kid's future self. And so, we really have to just be grateful. The suffering comes from not accepting what's happening. And that's why
Ooh.
acceptance is like part of the whole grieving process.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like, it's a game. Life is a game. doesn't mean I know some people love that, hate that, whatever. Simulation, matrix, whatever you want to call it. But the
It is
fact
what it
that
is.
it
Yeah.
is what it is. And the fact is that I don't like to compare, but I do like to put myself and see what's possible and use people as motivation. And I think to myself, okay, well, if someone else, if you have a real person, insert there, was in my situation, could they get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And once I find that person, there's no jealousy. I'm using that as like, okay, it's like the 4 minute mile where it's like, okay, it's possible. We've
Yeah.
all heard stories of people having bad times and then coming out of it on top. And we've heard
Mm-hmm.
stories of people having bad times and ending up a junkie on the street. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out what's the difference between these two kinds of people and how do I become the correct one?
And really, Brian, it's a matter of who they right, like just like you said, who do I want to be? Like who do I want to be? Because we literally all can be on one side of the street at any particular time. I have I love the analogy of the surfer and the skateboarder because that's so true. It's not if you fall, it's when you fall, right? When you fall, what are you going to do? How are you going to get back up?
Exactly.
The other thing that I absolutely love that you said is just really about this idea of comparison, right? And so as you were talking, I'm like, I feel like self-help gurus, and listen, I'm in that category. I'm one of these life coaches, self-help people,
Totally.
teach people not to compare. And I think that as you're talking, like my brain is just kind of like being
Right.
massaged, and I'm like, what if that's false? Like, what if we should be, and not in an unhealthy way, not to
Exactly.
where we are paralyzed because we're not that person. But
Right.
I am a firm believer of if God did it for one person, he could do it for me. So I'm gonna compare, I'm gonna live my life and measure up to, well, dang, if David, this little shepherd boy, could slay this Goliath, could slay this giant. What's the giant in my life? Is it my self doubt? Is it my mindset? Is it my lack of funds? Is it my lack of support? Whatever that giant is, I can slay it because he did. God already proved himself, right? But here's
Right.
the thing that a lot of people don't even want to talk about or don't even want to admit, Brian. When we're in these situations and we have like these biblical characters or these real life people, right? Who think, I want everyone that's listening to think of your favorite motivational influencer, whatever. They are using what's in their hand. They're not just sitting there waiting, wishing, like you said,
Yeah.
doing 6 hours of prayer and meditation and then not doing anything. They're saying, okay, bet. I sat
Mhm.
here, I prayed, I meditated, I did the thing. Now let's go. Let me use what's in my hand. Maybe it's just a microphone. Maybe it's just a pen. Maybe it's just the thoughts. Maybe it's your stories. Your
Exactly.
story of your wife passing away and you just having your baby boy in that beach. That's what pushed you to be the man that you are today. And I think so often we're waiting for someone or something to come save us. And the truth of the matter is, no one's coming. We have
Exactly.
to be our own savior. We have to do the work. We're gonna fall. You're gonna want to feel like you want to give up. All of those things are inevitable. But why? Because you're a human. You're human,
Yep.
and those are human emotions. And instead of allowing those human emotions to stop us or keep us stuck, we need to use that as fuel. I say,
Yes.
I love that you talked about gratitude. I say that gratitude is the payment for what trauma caused. It pays for the trauma. So we have to every single day for the last 10 years that I've been on this journey, this entrepreneur journey, I get up and I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. Some days it's simple things like my legs, like my voice, like the coffee, that the hot water. Like there's so much for us to be grateful for. And we forget because we're waiting for the next thing. We're waiting
Yes.
for the big break when God's like, hey, when's the last time you said thank you for what you already have, right?
Exactly. 100%. Lot to unpack there. First of all, let's go back to what you were saying before, which you kind of just described now, which is God loves movement, right? I always say God likes those that um, do things for themselves.
Yeah.
Like you know, on YouTube right now, we hear about all these manifesting stuff. If you're in the spiritual world or have taken a breath work class or whatever, you get all this manifesting. And it's funny because people don't even know what manifesting, the definition is. let alone what it is. And I think wishing and manifesting get confused. And the difference
Mhm.
is that wishing, you're not actually doing anything. Manifesting, you have aligned actions. It's not
Right.
just about visualizing. Visualizing is definitely part of it, and having clarity of where you're going. But it also you need to have actions. That's why I do love this phrase, be, do, have.
It's
And
very important.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a few people that have like credit for that. I learned it from a guy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. There's another guy that's super famous. I can't remember his name, but he talks about it. But the bottom line is that first you have to decide to be this thing. And so like, let's
Mhm.
talk about business because I know that's a good segue. So like you decide that you want to open up a business. Doesn't matter what it is. I'll just say real estate, okay?
Mhm.
This could be any business, doesn't matter. First, you have to say, I am a real estate investor, or
Yeah.
I am a realtor, or I am whatever. Then you have to say to yourself, okay, well, what would a realtor do? What would a real estate investor do? Well, they're probably either going to knock on doors, they're going to make a lot of cold calls, they're going to a lot of texting, a lot of emailing. So now do those things.
Mhm.
And don't say like, oh, well, I'm working on becoming a real estate investor. No, I am a real estate investor. Okay. And look, there's a lot of real estate investors that maybe at 1 second they don't own any property. That could
Mhm.
be anywhere along the line. And so you have to be that. And the more that you could wrap your head around and start believing and knowing that that's who you are, the better you can, right? So, when you think about Moses, him accepting that he's got to be in charge, right? These things happen. You have to just be that thing. And then you'll do it, and then you'll have it.
Yep.
The thing is, most people are like, well, once I've sold 3 houses or become a millionaire or have 17 podcasts, then I'm going to say that I'm a podcaster. No, you got to be it first, do what that person would do, and then you'll have those things.
100%, Brian. That concept of be do have has really helped me in so many things. And honestly, this morning when I was getting up and getting ready for my day, I was telling myself, because anything we say after I am, our subconscious mind believes it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I am a multimillionaire. I am a earner. I am a high earner. I am a podcaster who my podcast goes, which is why I did the rebrand and I did the name change, because I'm like, I want people to be able to find this. I want to be Google searchable. And I mean, thank God, through Tuesday with Tamika, because I've been consistent, I've done a great job of people being able to find me. But I'm going to another level. So what
Mhm.
did I do? I said, okay, well, I could easily um just be an average podcaster. No, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna put on a little coat, I'm gonna do all the things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't feel like I'm being an imposter, because here's the other thing. We have a lot of people telling us, oh, imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome. Sometimes you have to, like, I don't even want to say fake it, because it's not faking. You already
Yeah.
are it. You
I'll
just
tell you
have
what
to
it is.
become it.
I'll tell you what it is because there's a lot of people. I love that you said this. So the imposter syndrome, the fake it till you make it, and act as if. Now, I don't have a problem using these words, but we must define them before we use them.
Yes.
People like to use words without actually looking them up on dictionary.com or something. Like we have to know what we're talking about. There's nothing wrong with imposter syndrome. It means that you're doing something that you haven't done before, or you're going to the next level. If
Yes.
if you don't feel like an imposter, that means that you're on the same level.
Wow.
So, whether you want to talk about, you know, let's just say Donald Trump, right? Because we know he's got a big ego.
Yeah.
At the same time, that first day that he went to the White House, I'm sure that in whatever his version of, I'm sure he had a little imposter syndrome, even though he's got this crazy frame control, because he's never was the president before.
Exactly.
So, now look, we're not getting political. Just look at the person as a human being. He acts much different second term than he does first term because the imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it is away because he's already done it. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying? So like I'm just using that now as far as like act as if, fake it till you make it, really the word that we're looking for, and it took me a long time to come up with this, and it's such a simple word, but it's going to change everything. Courage. You need
Mm.
courage. It's not
Yes.
fake it till you make it. It's not confidence, it's courage. You know, imagine a boy or a young man in a bar in Manhattan and he wants to go up to the girl. It's not confidence, it's the courage to go up. When you
Yeah.
go up and and then he starts talking to different women and then he starts getting rejected. Same thing for sales, by the way. Same thing for sales. You start making phone calls. People say no to you. You knock on doors. Will you do this? Will you buy my widget? All of a sudden you get desensitized in a good way. Oh, it's not killing me. Oh, this person's
Right.
saying no. They're not. People put their own self-worth into the sale, into
Mm-hmm.
the asking the person on a date. Has nothing to do with you. So if you're going to be like, if you don't buy my product, I'm going to feel like a piece of crap. Well, that's why you're not selling your product. And so you need to desensitize from some of these things. And the only way to desensitize is by falling, going back to the first part, right? The first time you go on a big wave, you're probably scared to get this thing cave you in, but you have to keep doing it and you get desensitized. So the courage is really important. The courage to start a business, the courage to get out there, make podcasts, make videos, stuff like that. And then, of course, you know, with the courage, it's that will build the confidence.
Yeah.
And then the other missing part for the sales part of this program is conviction.
Mm.
And if you ask me, everyone talks about confidence. I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, everyone on the show, you don't need confidence. It's going to come. It's going to happen. Don't worry about the confidence. You need courage to start and you need conviction. If you
Mm.
don't believe in what you're selling and you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to buy it. And so
100%.
if you are, you know, like what would you say is like do you have certain clients or certain listeners that are doing certain things? Like, is there more X than Y?
Yeah, we're a lot of the ladies are digital marketers, so we're stepping into that digital marketing phase.
Perfect. So with marketing, see, marketing's an interesting one. I'm actually happy you said that. Marketing's an interesting one because as good as you get with marketing, you never know it's going to work until you put it out there.
That's right.
So, you know, you might have the greatest idea in the shower, and then you do that thing for marketing and it flops. And then you might have the quote unquote dumbest idea and that goes viral. And, you know, with marketing, simplicity does sell. And
Mm-hmm.
simplicity always is a double-edged sword because one of the reasons these YouTubers are saying, oh, well, just sit on your couch and manifest, and you'll get a six-pack and $1 billion and a boat and all these things. It sounds easy. It sounds easy, but you have to do things. And I would tell anyone conviction is really what people are looking for when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
sales, when it comes to stuff. You have to know that you're saving the person. And if you don't
Yes.
believe you're saving the person, then maybe you need to find a new widget.
Hmm. Yes, 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 yes. And so that's, oh, I'm so glad that you said that because I was thinking as you were talking, when we go back to the analogy of you're talking about the young kid in Manhattan, he's in the bar, he's in the club, and he's shooting his shot, right? He's trying to talk to all these girls and he's getting rejected. When we look at that like in business, you will get rejected. There will be so many people that say no that are like, yeah, I don't want that. That sounds scammy, right? Like that
Mhm.
sounds like a scam. Uh,
Totally.
what a lot of times what you need to do first and foremost instead of giving up is you have to look at yourself just like this kid. Okay, what is it about me? Is it my clothes? Is it my tone of voice? Is it the way? What is it? And so when we translate that into business, what system? Are you using the wrong system? Are you using the wrong widget, right? So often we think just because I've posted 5 Instagram reels that I'm going to become a millionaire. Doesn't work that way, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's fun. You know, everyone always has this thing of, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be perfect. They do it, and then the next day it's gone because it's Instagram, right?
Yes.
And that's why I do believe in I'm starting to do more YouTube stuff, and I do believe in YouTube because it stays forever.
It does.
Instagram is 24 hours, it's done.
Mhm.
Instagram could be 1 hour, it's done. Yeah, it'll get shared. If it goes super viral, it's 3 days. But
Right.
YouTube, people can always search for it. So I'm a big fan of YouTube for that. And the one piece of info that you didn't say that you're right there with is the audience.
Yeah.
Sometimes is it the widget, is it myself, or is it the audience? Because
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example, and I've been using this analogy a lot lately, and I love analogies. I love reframes, I love analogies. You know, if you take Metallica, which is one of the largest, like
Big, yeah.
heavier rock bands. If you don't know who Metallica is, then I don't even
Where
know.
have you been?
Where have you
Yeah.
been? I'm not asking you to like them. I'm just asking you to know them. And Taylor Swift, which if you don't know who Taylor Swift is, I don't know where you've been. You're an
Right.
alien. Maybe go to the doctor, get a checkup. Something's wrong with you. Now imagine all these people buy Taylor Swift tickets and they go to number one. And then all these Metallica people go to number two, but Metallica and Taylor Swift switch. So
Uh-huh.
they're performing
Ah,
there, they're performing there. Then listen, out of the whole crew of 100%, maybe 10%, maybe 20% will be like, oh, wow, they're really good. But probably 80% is going to be like, what the hell is this? This is not what
yeah.
I signed up for. Now, does that mean Metallica sucks? No, they're one of the greatest bands. Does that mean Taylor Swift sucks? No, she's sold more records than anyone, give or take. I mean, the last thing she did, the last tour was
Crazy.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. So it's like, no, but if you're playing for the wrong audience, you're not going to be appreciated.
So good.
If you're a dirty comic like Andrew Dice Clay, which most people probably won't know that record, but I don't know, do they even have dirty comics anymore? But if you're a dirty comic and you go to a church and he starts doing his stand-up routine, you're gonna get crucified
Right.
legitimately. Now, if you're like I don't know, like a more liberal and more like oh no, not even liberal. You know, I'm thinking of the guy from Full House. Remember how
Oh,
he did like,
yeah, yeah.
you know? So it's like you have to have the right audience in front of you because that's your people. And it's
Yeah.
like this is such like a kid thing. This is such a kindergarten thing, but just be yourself and double down on yourself. I know
Uh-huh.
it's easier said than done. And then the people that don't like you, that's the blessing that they don't like you. So let them go to
Yeah.
the Taylor Swift, and then you can come to see me at Metallica or
Yeah.
vice versa. And,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing. Because if you're changing to try to appease the other person, well, then you're going to either end up in a relationship, business or personal, and then you're going to realize you're not happy because that's not really who you are. Now,
100%.
two things can be true at once. We have to increase skills
Yes.
and we have to be our authentic self.
Yes.
So if I'm just my authentic self and I'm selling marketing, it still might not sell. I still have
Mhm.
to increase my sales. I have to increase my skills of marketing. I have to know what's going on. I have to follow Gary Vee, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, I still have to be myself. So
Yeah.
this whole thing of like authenticity and skill building together at the same time.
100%. And Bryan, that could really be scary, right? Because as you're doing these skill building activities, as you're expanding your mind, in our community, we say as you are becoming her, which means healed, elevated, and restored. So as you are becoming the ultimate version of yourself, sometimes that original audience that came to see you because you're a Swiftie, your audience is going to change. Now, there's people that want like Frank Sinatra or that want, this different version of you. And because you have elevated, you have to be okay with leaving those people that, and I've done this like literally this last year and a half has been, and it's not easy. I would be lying if I'm like, oh, it's okay. It's great. No, it's painful because I still want to help the broke mindset people but I'm like, I can't. Like, I'm literally not her anymore. I don't even know how to talk like that anymore. I don't even know how to serve those folks anymore. I mean, I got a bunch of evergreen products that you can go and take advantage of and for that audience, but be okay with the growth and the expansion. People people are going to say, "Oh, you changed." Well, dang it, shouldn't I? Like, shouldn't I be changing? Shouldn't I be
Of
expanding?
course.
And be okay with that. Be okay
Yeah,
with that growth. Bryan, this has been, I mean, I could freaking talk to you all day because I love talking healing and building, but I
yeah.
want to know what do you have going on? Like you are a wealth of information. How can the TWT family get in contact with you and learn more from you?
Perfect. Definitely follow me on Instagram. I think that's the easiest way. It's Bryan, Bryan .may, Bryan.may. Hit me up, DM me. My website is bryanisAmazing.com, BRYANIS,
I love
amazing.
it.
And one final tip for the women out there, because I've done a lot of consulting with business women that are also spiritual and things like that. You know, without generalizing, a lot of women that are in that position, they want to help, which is a
Yes.
good thing.
Mhm.
You God helps those who help themselves.
Come on.
You have to really like I'll give you a real example. Great woman. She was really trying to help. Similar situation to you, but a real story. Like, she was trying to help women that maybe single moms, lower income, stuff like that. But then on the other hand, she's like, Brian, I'm broke. And I'm like, okay, let's think about Oprah. Not that I'm the biggest Oprah fan, but she is an amazing person and we should use her as a reference point. If she didn't become a billionaire, do you think she'd be building schools in Africa?
Right.
If she didn't become a billionaire, would she say, you get a car, you get a car? She wouldn't even have a car. How would she be giving away cars? So you might either have to put that on pause, meaning like if it's pro bono work or work for underprivileged, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means
Mm.
for every underprivileged, or I don't know what word you want to use, for every person in a hard situation, you better pick someone that's uber wealthy and sell them a product or service because that will funnel down and help these people and will help yourself. Because if you don't put the air mask on yourself, who's flying the plane? So
Right.
I definitely recommend, like life insurance is a field that's kind of like this. There's some other insurances where, okay, you need to work with very wealthy people, and then you can educate people that maybe don't have those kind of things. And that way you could build a system that really works.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. That was great advice. We are going to put all of Brian's information in the show notes for you guys to follow him on Instagram, on YouTube as well. We're going to put
Yes.
all the links for you guys to go and continue to follow him, and also get to see if he may be the coach, he may be the business advisor, the consultant that you need to really upgrade your business and your mindset. So make sure you guys go over to his website. Brian is definitely amazing. This has been an amazing podcast, Brian. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing this Tuesday with us. Until next week, TWT fam, continue to live a life to inspire and not impress. Continue to lift as you climb, turn those trials into treasures, and open up and allow God to restore you. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a comment in the comment box and like and subscribe. Until next week. Bye bye.